Okay, this is the kind of calculation that's kind of tricky when you're using the calculator, but I'll show you that you actually enter it into the calculator pretty much exactly the way it's written out right here. There are only a couple of places where we will insert more grouping symbols, and so I want to point out to you what that means. So up here we have these parentheses, and these parentheses aren't really there for grouping. They're just there to indicate multiplication. You could just have a dot here for multiplication. So we could enter this as just 144 times 0.09, divide by 12, press enter, and that'll make this calculation. But in the denominator, these parentheses act as a grouping symbol, because without these parentheses, we wouldn't raise this sum of two numbers to that power. Without these parentheses, we would just raise this number to that power. But since we want to force the addition first, we have to use these parentheses, and that makes the addition get done before the exponent. Now the exponent is the other issue. If you look at these parentheses, they are not a grouping symbol, that's a multiplication symbol. So instead of having parentheses here, think of a dot for multiplication. So it's negative 12 times 30. The problem is that if you enter this and then enter negative 12 dot 30, what the calculator is going to do is it's not going to interpret that multiplication as happening to the negative 12. It's going to interpret that multiplication as happening to this whole expression here. You have to force this multiplication to happen before it recognizes or uses the exponent here. Remember, exponents get done before multiplication if there's no grouping symbols. So that's a common mistake students make. They don't put parentheses here. Okay, so let's look and see how the calculation works on this calculator. And it'll be the same on any kind of calculator. The only difference here is that this calculator leaves a trace of what is being entered into it. So I'll show you what I mean as let me sort of move this over a little bit, because I can show you something. A cool feature of this calculator is I can show you the key press history here. It's a little bit bigger to see. Okay, so we have 144,000, 144,000 times 0.09 divide by 12. Press enter. That gives you the numerator, 10,080. 10,080. Okay, you want to take that number and divide it by two terms in the denominator. And here's your first thing. You have to add a parenthesis here and at the very end, but you don't have to close those parentheses. I'll get to that in a minute. But you have to enclose the denominator in parentheses because there's a subtraction here. If you don't do that, the calculator will divide by 1 and then subtract that answer, subtract this from that answer, and that's not what you want it to do. You want to calculate this difference first. And to make it do that, you have to take this answer, which you can now put here by just clicking second. Right here you see ANS, that means answer. So that means the last answer that you calculated, which is this number, you want to divide by open parenthesis and now enter the whole denominator. The first thing is 1, then you have a minus. Now you have a grouping symbol, so open another parenthesis. Now you don't need any grouping symbols in here because the calculator is automatically going to do this division before it does the addition. So you can just enter in 1 plus 0.09 divided by 12. And as I said, the calculator will do this first and then add 1. Now close that parenthesis, and here's where the exponent comes in. Now, my calculator is nice because it stays in the exponent until I make it leave the exponent. But in case you have an older model calculator, use parentheses for the exponent. The exponent is, open parentheses, negative, use this symbol for negative, 12 times 30. Close those parentheses. Actually, you don't really have to close any parentheses because we're at the end of our expression, so you don't have to worry about closing all parentheses. You can just press enter. And when you press enter, you get 1,158.65, and the correct answer is 1,159 because we round that up. So study this video, and I hope it helps you in using the calculator efficiently to perform this calculation.